I believe we are live. Yes. Okay. Welcome everyone to Warriors of Light Show. This is episode 12. I think we're on episode 12. And today we're here with the amazing Makhosi Ngwane. Welcome, Makhosi, to this space. This is the space for us to commune together as African people on our African spirituality, our African beliefs, healing systems, just for the purpose of activating Black joy, Black abundance, Black community, once again in the ways of our indigenous practices and indigenous wisdom. So we're so excited to have you here. Welcome, Tokoza Koko.
Togoza Coco Joy, thank you so much for the invite, and Makhosi to everybody that is tuned in, Barena Kaufela, to all the royals, thank you. Time is a very precious commodity, so humbled to be sharing this hour with you and with the amazing work that you are doing. Thank you so much, Coco.
Thank you, Coco, for saying yes. Today we are here diving deep into a very important conversation. We are exploring a deeper understanding and tapping into the wisdom of ancestral spirits as melanated humans, as African people of African descent. And we'll be diving deep very soon. If you're joining us, we will be using the chat to just, comment, to ask questions. We will be using the Q&A. If you're on Zoom, there's a Q&A option in your gadget. So we will use that for any questions that you have that you would want Makhosi to share with us throughout. No, not throughout. We will actually open questions towards the end of this conversation. So stay with us so that you can ask your important questions. Otherwise, if you're on Facebook, you can just use the comment section to do that. And yes, let's have some fun. Let's activate ourselves with our African wisdom. Okay. So we begin all the time by setting sacred space to welcome in the spirits that work and walk with all of us. So wherever you are, I invite you now to close your eyes and to imagine that all of us here, and those who are even joining us later as a replay, we are part of a sacred circle, and a sacred circle of different lineages, different ancestries coming together to commune and heal and activate together. And we begin this sacred circle setting by coming to our heart, our higher heart, which is the doorway to our higher self and to the higher realms. And as you come to your higher heart, take a deep breath in and out and come to your body with the breath. And become aware that within your heart there is a permanent diamond seed, an aspect of yourself that is infinite, that is vast, your spirit self. And begin to connect and recalibrate with that aspect of yourself. And begin to see that aspect of yourself like the waters of which we come from, a liquid blue water energy in the heart. And begin to see that water moving down from your heart, down through your solar plexus, through your womb, through the root chakra, the base of your spine, and going down through your feet to the earth, like a root of a tree, and going down even more past your earth star, the star that connects you to our Mother Earth, and allowing the sacred water that is you connect with the heart of our Mother Earth, our Mother, and the custodians of the earth that resides in the inner earth realms. And with this process, allow yourself to also release any worries, any stresses, any energies of low vibration, return them to the earth so they may be transmuted with unconditional love. And from the earth, allow yourself to receive the healing waters, the primordial sacred waters from our Mother. And you may begin to see that water coming back now, like in a different stream, to return to your feet, to cleanse the feet, to cleanse the blood, the bones in your legs, in your thighs, in your womb area, in your stomach, in your chest, your throat, the top of your head. And that stream will continue to move from the top of your head past and opening you to your soul star, to your higher self. And here we call in from the great central sun, our council of our higher selves. We call in the luminous ancestral helping spirits, our grandmothers and grandfathers, the ancient ones of the luminous realm, to come and join us. Today, we invite in our Christ-led spirit guides that work with us in their many different forms. And we open up even more to our prime creator, God, Holy Mother, Father God. And we open to the Holy Spirit, to the Holy Grace, and we allow and invite this to seal this space, to contain this space within that grace. And we take a collective deep breath as we accept this into the body even more. And we open our eyes. Welcome back. Welcome. Yeah. Makhosi.
Wekoko wami ungiphelezela koko wami ungiphelezela wekoko wami uyongiphelezela koko wami ungiphelezela mawumnyama ngiyesaba ngiphelezele thunga lami ungiphelezela mawumnyama ngiyesaba ngiphelezele wekoko wami ungiphelezela. Thokoza gogo.
This opens my heart so deeply. This music. Thank you so much for that beautiful offering and opening to this sacred space, Gogo. It makes me feel the presence of the ancestral spirits, the ancient ones, even more. And the thought that comes to my mind is how powerful our culture is, how powerful our indigenous ways are, and a little heartbroken that sometimes we don't remember this and we don't recognize this. So thank you for that deep remembrance, Gogo.
Thokoza gogo. And I think
Yeah.
just to say that, you know, Masiti Gogo in spiritual language, and we're not saying we are not talking about Mkulu or the males, but Umasiti Gogo, it's a symbolism, because you would find in our practice, even males would be referred to as Abokoko. And the song says, Mpelekezele, for those that may not be Zulu. It says, accompany me. Gogo, accompany me. Spirit, accompany me. It says, Tonga, accompany me. Ngoba makumnyama ngesaba. When it is dark, I get fearful, and darkness can be explained in so many ways, because we're not just talking about darkness and as in the sense of the absence of light or the sun, but you know, confusion is darkness, illness is darkness, fear is darkness, trauma is darkness, you know, the social ills that we are going through, those are all darkness. Not knowing is darkness. Being lost, you know, being told lies for so many years, that's darkness. And we, you know, I think that song for me, it's just to say, you know, where I get confused, where I'm not sure, you know, please, spirit, bokoko, bomkulu, ancestors, accompany me or walk with me or be with me. And just so that we explain to those that don't understand this is Zulu, you know, the power that was in that song.
So powerful. So powerful. I love the multi-dimensional and layeredness of what the song means. It was only two stanzas or choruses, what is it called, that you said, but
Two
now when
lines.
you begin, two lines, yes. But now when you explain what it means, it's even more profound, and that's the beauty of our indigenous languages, our indigenous music, our indigenous culture, the very wisdom that is seeped in, it's hidden, and if you keep going deeper, you would discover so much beauty and strength and courage in it. Like I feel even more courageous just hearing what it means, meaning of the song. Yes, yes.
Yeah, the broadness that is us, the broadness that is being Black, the broadness that is being gifted, the broadness that is understanding itonga, understanding idlozi, understanding ithunywa, understanding who we are. We are so broad, and I think yes, just looking at the topic, with every word, almost literally with every word, I found that there was so much depth that just with understanding, you know, you could just have a stream, just talking about understanding, because our ways or the ways of our people are just that deep and so broad and so rich. And, you know, language, it really doesn't matter sometimes to us as children of the spirit, whether, you know, I could hear what's being said in that song, but because we are children of the spirit, it will move something in you. And, you know, that is the beauty of us. That is the beauty of our people. That is the beauty of Bokoko na Bomkhulu. And yeah, I really look forward to us just talking, Koko, and having this conversation around the abundance that is us.
Yes, yes. Oh, this makes me so happy. Because yes, we are vast, and there is a very vast way that we can look into our culture, and that eagerness to want to understand, but also opening space for the mysteries of it, you know, the
Yes.
multi-layeredness of it, that we can't actually fully comprehend spirit, but in attempting and having that heart that says, I want and I seek to understand more, because we are spirit after all, right?
Yes.
So in beginning this conversation, we begin on like a contemplation or a meditation on ancestral spirits, like just so we can understand them. Like from your perspective, Gogo, what are ancestral spirits? I know it's a broad question, but yes, let's begin in the broad question of what are ancestral spirits? How can we better understand these spirits that are available for us as indigenous African people and begin to work with them?
You know, spirit loosely translated or formally translated, or if we right define, kare ke moya noma umoya. But then when we start saying ancestral spirits, sesikhuluma, now we're talking about Amathonga, and I'm not sure if with Botswana and Mazulu and the other languages. I know with the Ngunis you would have Amathonga, and then you would also have Amadlozi. And they are ancestral spirits. Why? Because it's those that have lived but now have passed on. But you know, the common now mistake is that we use these words so loosely that we fail to distinguish between the two. So ancestors, unamadlozi, unamathonga. So let's now talk about Amathonga. And I will talk about these things the way that Spirit has revealed them and has been teaching me around those two words, because it's also very important for us to acknowledge, Gogo, that yes, we are living in a global village. Yes, we are living in times where we have information overload, where you know you just punch something on Google and you will get all sorts of things. But as bana bamoya, as bana that are led, we need to also remember to give a room for Batubahau, for your ancestors and for Spirit to teach you things the way that they want you to know them and to understand them. And itonga, masikhuluma ngetonga, tongo ke boroko. So umasikhuluma ngamathonga, we're talking about those in our families that have passed on, and they would come and give us messages, kaditoro, in our dreams, or they would show us visions, or they would communicate in various ways that they could either give signs and whatever, but mostly they speak to us emathongweni. That is why in Nguni city Amathonga. And now Amathonga, our family members esihleli nabo that are in our shrines emsamo wasekhaya. And it's so important for me to explain this thing as a healer, but also as umntwana womuntu omnyama, because there tends to be this confusion that sicabanga ukuthi wonke amathonga amadlozi. And you know, the idlozi is the one that I went and initiated and trusted, Ngwane. You know, I got possessed by that spirit that had work that it needed to come and do and complete and fulfill. This person that wanted to come back and practice as a healer, wangena kim waba yidlozi. And umadlozi, you find there are amadlozi that are good, but there are also amadlozi that are not good. And umasizokhuluma ngamadlozi that are not good, you would find somebody has a problem with addiction, or somebody has mannerisms or behaviors that we quite don't understand. And uthole ukuthi kanti that person ungenwe umoya wedlozi that behaved in that particular way. And kodwa emasiya ngasemathongweni, and na as ngwana othwasitseng o tsamayang nalamadlozi le badimo ba, I will have umsamo wami, my own msamo, my own shrine esigodlweni in the Ndumba, okumsamo wamadlozi that are here to do a particular work of healing. that are here to practice, that they are here libo mamsebeleti, because I'm also a prophet, and liba dimbabang that are here leading kabatse bang miriana, the herbalists, you know, depending on where you fall within the scope of bungaka. But maskhuluma ngetonga, sonke lamatonga can come to us. I don't need to be somebody who is chosen to go and twasa for itonga, for nkgono gore a ka tla ditorong, for ntatemoholo gore nka mmona ditorong, or for me to get messages, because those are the guardians of the home. Those are the guardians of the home and the children of the home. Lamatonga lawa nalesithunywa sami esiwukhokho noma ukhokho have always been looking after me before I even knew that I had to go and initiate as ngaka. So it's very important, because once then people who they have this narrow of going to initiate and becoming healers, then we forget that we have guidance or guiders or lela thong badimo bale abomsamo wasekhaya, because uJoy works with this particular nkgono a ile a tsamaya a lo nka mosebetsi wa hae, that he went and initiated. But there had to be that agreement, there had to be that discussion le badimo ba ko lona. And that is why for me it was very important also to try and speak more on this word of understanding, because we really need to start understanding at a deeper level, so that we are able to tap into what we are needing to tap into, and also we also able to tap out of what we are needing to tap out of. So sihlukanise when it comes to, it's not only sihlukanise in terms of we need to always revere and respect badimo bale, our original ancestors, bonkgono bale ba re buang ka bona, that raised us, that were so wise, that would tell stories, ba yalang batho, that would explain why we do certain rituals, why we do certain things, abo babomkhulu, because those they are the guides tsa rona. And then ebe hube leba esizobathwasa ke manje. And within labesisibathwasile, then we also have types and types, which we have to be, we acknowledge as well there, that depending on where you are geographically, depending on where you initiate, you will sometimes understand these spirits differently. Somebody from KZN will understand umndigi nendigi differently sometimes from somebody from the north. Somebody from the Eastern Cape will understand differently umndau from somebody from KZN. So that's why I said in the beginning, let us in our understanding always go back to ask your own people, what is it that you are wanting me to understand, and how are you wanting me to understand it? Because we are living in an age or a time where information is just everywhere. But I need to understand na as uxoli ukuthi nina, what are you intending and what are you wanting me to understand, and so that I understand the purpose yaka. And when we talk about understanding, therefore, it is imperative that we go back to the beginning. We go back to the beginning before we feature more the ancestral spirits, before we feature more wisdom and ancient and what all these things mean. And the beginning is what is self. The beginning is I, the beginning is self. And when I say that because sometimes we become like people who, you become like this book, you know, you've been given a book of your life, but this book of your life is already written, and it was written by somebody else and not you. So now go back to the beginning. Abonkunu had this wiseness, this wisdom, because they would look at Ngwana from pregnancy, study the mother, the parent, the nature of the pregnancy, how this child was conceived, and what was happening with the mother while they were carrying this child, because they had things that they were reading all the time. They had messages that they were getting. That's the wisdom that we're talking about of our ancient ancestral spirits. They understood. Hence, then we talk about practices and beliefs. Hence, they would say you cover your pregnancy. Hence, they will say you don't do 1, 2, 3, or you don't eat 1, 2, 3. That's where now we got practices and we got beliefs and we got things that we tend to think are myths, but there was always a reason for those things. Because batlo sheba seemo sa motho o imileng, and ba bege when that child is born, they would look at the time, the season, what is happening, what is happening when this child is born, what are the events even in the country or in the universe or in the world around the birth of this child. And is the delivery smooth? Is the delivery difficult? Was the pregnancy difficult? So we need to go back to the beginning and almost sort of like go back and ask, but what was you spoke about mysteries, teach us these mysteries, because there was no biology textbook then, but they had that knowledge. It was in it. There was no geography textbook then, but they could understand that this child is born around this season. This means this. They could understand that this child is born in this child comes and this child is covered in a sack, or this child is inside a sack, or this child has something in their hand. Therefore, we know that joy one day, reborn, we knew, or rebonica, this, and that. Or lomntwana, we could see that utla aperu uza embethwe. So therefore we said, no, ngwana ona is a reincarnation of Umkhonus Mangmang, or this child is a reincarnation of Umkhulu Usbanban. And there abantu were given names of people that bebephila. But in that, there was always a reason. And Tina, it becomes easy for us to say things are primitive, or they're not relevant, or they don't work, or we don't need them. Why? Because we lack that understanding. But why Bokoko? Why was I named Joy? Why was I named Polisa? What was happening? What were the events around? Because my name talks about peace somewhere. Were there events that were happening? Because if I look back, then you will find that Bupilong Baka, this name, somewhere, somehow, you're either always having to make peace, or you are a peaceful person, or you're always solving things. But Abo Bonkono already knew that Uzaganje, because these events obegunje in that time, therefore we are going to name you this. So for me, before we attempt to understand a whole lot of things, can we all give ourselves that homework? Yahu, understand the self, understand your name, understand the circumstances around your birth. Because even with our parents that give birth to us, there's always a spiritual force that pulls these two people together. And if you go and you look and you research and you ask these questions, you get to understand, no, actually he's from that lineage and he's from there, and because he was like this, or he's, these people spiritually were called to give birth or to bring this particular life into this world. And from understanding ourselves, understanding the I, then we move to trying and to understand a family, our immediate families, understanding from our surname, from our clan, from our tribe. Who are we? Why do we have this particular animal as a totem? Why do we associate with rain? Why do we associate with the sun? And those are the questions. That's the ancient wisdom. That's the ancient knowledge that we are needing to go back to understand, so that we understand ourselves. And then you will understand where, not as a person, or in this family, what is my role? in this family, where do I fit in? Once I understand around my name, around my birth, around all these things, okay, within this now tree, where do I fit in and what is my purpose then? Why am I here? What am I here to do in this setting? And from that family, then we talk about a community, then we talk about the village, then we talk about the societies that we find ourselves in, then we extend it and we talk about our country, we talk about our race, the nation that we belong to, and we start talking about the continent that we are in. But it is important for us to first to go back, so that as we are coming, we know, now we go to that tapping in. We know what it is that we are needing to tap into. But also as we tap into, you know, there are dualities with everything. There are things that we need to tap out of that don't need to be with us, that don't need to be existing in our lives, if we are to accept this knowledge, if we are to accept this wisdom, because there's conditionings that we need to tap out of, there's beliefs that we need to tap out of, there's practices that we have adopted, and some that were forced onto our ancestors, our grandmothers and our fathers. And then now we grew up thinking, okay, this is actually the way. So I think I will stop just there, just having touched on understanding, just having touched on tapping into and tapping out of some of the things.
Ooh, Gogo, I am in a meditative state now. You were speaking to my spirit. Thank you so much for this transmission. So as you are sharing, I am mapping it from my perspective as a Motswana, and also mapping it from the language that we all use, the English language. So we believe that God created us, the prime creator, because we're talking about going back to see the process, the hierarchy, what is actually really happening, right? So God created us. And in many ways, actually, people say God dreamt us into being. As you were saying, that Amathongo are those who are sleeping, they are the sleepers, right? They are the dreamers. God is dreaming us, but God is dreaming us in different layers, right? And our ancestral helping spirit, which I believe is the Amathongo. I could be wrong because it's a language thing. You can confirm with me that the Amathongo are those ancestors that are dreaming the collective dream for all of the human race, your race, your tribe, the collective dream of your family, which means if you are a human being, you are part of that collective dream. So it doesn't even matter. You are part of what is being dreamed. So we are the dream element, and the Amathongo are dreaming us, and they're taking these dreams from the original prime creator. So this is so important, and we spoke about the importance of this for people to understand that when we speak of ancestral spirits, which is broad, there is this part which we must understand has nothing to do with religion, tradition, ritual. It is the fundamental mechanic of existence. It's not something you can opt out of. As long as you are alive, you have to see yourself as God is actually dreaming me. God created me as part of the dream. And the collective dreamers, those who are designated by God to dream for a particular tribes, these are our Amathongo. I think I'm saying it in Suzanne, but yes, essentially that. And this is so important and so profound because I often interact with people who perceive ancestral spirits from the perspective of Blozi, but not necessarily understanding that if you are alive, you have these ancestral spirits that are there with or without your awareness. And in understanding this, then we will understand the importance of why you must tap into that, right? because these are the ones who understand the collective experience of your life. You might think that you have an individual life, you are the one who's creating and controlling it, and that's just some part of it, but there is a deeper, mysterious, beautiful pattern, dream experience happening through you, as your life. And in understanding this, then we understand why we would want to tap into this wisdom, because it's a way to understand yourself, to understand your experiences, all of the different experiences. It's to understand, why are we as Black people having the current dream we're having? Because we can look at it as our experience as Black people is all one dream, and we must awaken from it, especially the parts that are not nourishing us. And for us to awaken from it, we can't awaken from it without connecting to the collective dreamers who are creating more of this experience. And we are just the elements moving through, right? So this is what this transmission is bringing into my awareness. And for those who are then called to play the role of the healer, to play a role of the medicine women and men, they will work with a different form, type of ancestral spirits, right? So then it's not necessary that everyone has to go through that. Everyone has to be initiated. For maybe your role in the family is a different role from the healer, right? So in this way, I hope then that for those who are joining and we are moving through language, we are understanding. So let us know. But thank you so much for like the breaking down, Gogo, of these two main ways that we can understand the ancestral spirit. And maybe now we can begin to explore, how do we tap into the collective dreamers, right? Just generally for everyone who wants to begin this conscious relationship, because most of us, it's already happening, but we're not consciously tapping into it, consciously relating with the collective dreamers. Are the wisdom keepers, they are the co-creators, they are the prophets who can foresee the entire timeline probabilities of our human experiences. So this is a very important thing to do, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
you know, there is like this portal that's just waiting for us to open. You know, we spoke about mysteries, and you know, to begin to begin to tap into this wisdom, to begin to tap into this knowledge. For me, ibuyele emsamo. And when I talk about umsamo, or the shrine, for ease of reference, but English sometimes does not really you know, explain things the way that our languages would. But umsamo, because you are umsamo when as a person, umsamo, and then sinomsamo wasekhaya, but then sinalo msamo wethu as a collective. And when I talk about umsamo wethu as a collective, because that's what we are talking about now, you know, we want to be this good dream. We want to be this dream that will work. We want to be this dream that will break barriers. We want to be this dream that will bring true liberation. So masibheka always, you know, it's like when you're divining on consult umuntu, you always look and you might pick up symptoms of a person, but always there is always that thing that you have to lean into. But what is happening ngomsamo walo muntu? You know, with the shrine yalo muntu lo, noma with the shrine this family that is bringing this disorder, or that is bringing this whole thing that is happening. So for me, our dream, or yes, we are this dream, Amadlozi wethu, we need to go back and and ask ourselves, what were those principles? What were those systems and what were those things that our elders believed in and lived by that we have forgotten or that we have chosen to ignore? And an example, we are so individualistic lately. It's all about me. It's all about me and my kids. And we sikhohlwa indaba yobuntu. And if you look at Ubuntu, as a concept or as something sonke that we know the word, but can we just go back and try and understand where did it come from, or what was meant umasithi umuntu ngabantu? Because that is where silahle khona emsamo sahamba. We've almost like scattered the very same itonga that is wanting to create this beautiful dream out of us by being too individualistic, by being too egotistic, by being too competitive, by not really caring about the other. We have forgotten about the importance of a collective, and it is not entirely our fault, because we all know that we come from a history of apartheid, of colonization, and of slavery, which we have to ask ourselves again, why was it so important for the oppressors to come and target this very thing that was us understanding that we are one, us understanding that we are stronger when we are together, that we are more powerful as a collective? What is it about us as a unity that was such a threat that they had to go and divide, and just the target was just to divide us so that they can conquer and they can rule? And now we are finding it very hard to go back to that spirit of collectiveness, to that spirit of loving. We so Gogo, for me, I would say let's umsamo wethu as a nation or as a race, particularly thina bantu abamnyama, because when you look at others, there are those that are getting it right. If you look at the Indians and if you look at the Jews, because they have kept to the ancient teachings, because they have kept to what we tend to term primitive, they are getting it right. You will find they are such a community. They revere their own things. They love their own things. They practice their own things. They do them. And we have lost that. And in us having lost that, there is so much disorder in our lives as the Black race. And I think for me, it is very important for us to go back and say, now, open that portal and say, help us go back. Help us go back, help us understand. Because even if you go to the Bible, which is then something that came, after Christ and all of these things, you look at the 10 Commandments, you look at all these things, it's natural laws that our grandparents had already been living by. But we tend to think so little of our own things that we neglect to see, or we are blinded to see the power that lies in them.
Yeah. Ooh, love this. Yes. I love all the elements of what you just transmitted, Gogo, because that's it. It's about the natural laws. When we speak of tapping into the wisdom of ancestral spirits, we're basically talking about returning to the natural laws, the divine laws, universal logos. These are, or even commandments, as you're saying, these are, for me, I tend to even think of it like very scientific with it. These are like mechanics of existence. They are just how we are meant to exist. And it is through disconnecting from these natural laws that we disconnect from the true reality, which is that we are one, we function from the law of one. and we begin to have these pathologies you've been talking about of egocentrism, narcissism. They come like the ills, the social ills of our generation, of our continent. They come because we left the natural laws. And when you leave the natural laws, you are leaving God, because the natural laws are God principles, right? And it's in understanding, because most of us, we want to divide African spirituality from God, or ancestors from God, and we don't see they are all the same thing, right? They are all for the very purpose of aligning us, helping us to live with the natural laws. And in living with the natural laws, we will naturally create what that which is naturally uh, our heritage, which looks like joy, which looks like abundance, which looks like love, unity in our homes, right? So all these experiences that we all currently desire as human beings. And when we think, especially this current generations, we are always thinking of, I want to have this kind of job, I want to have this kind of relationship. And we think these are things we have to go and create by ourselves. And we don't realize, in returning the shrine, as you were saying, to the natural laws, these will naturally happen, because that's how God designed it. It only does not happen because we left the natural laws.
And Coco,
laws,
sorry, pardon me, Coco, and Coco, the best way, because for us we are almost like playing catch up, because I think the awakening and the understanding and the knowledge and everything, it caught us at a particular age. But I think that the one wise thing that we can do for ourselves is to start with the young ones, start with our own kids, start teaching them, start explaining things to them, so that it is a way of life. It is not uphahla or meditator. Is something special and something unique. But but just like prayer, because most of our kids understand prayer. Most of our kids understand that we pray before we sleep, we pray before we eat, we do this before, so start them now with those ancient teachings, with those teachings of natural law, with teaching them about spirit, so that it's a way of life. And they grow, as they grow, they are balanced, or they are aligned, and they are rooted, and we're not playing catch up all the time, and we don't have tomorrow these adults that are needing to go back now and be taught, to understand that we have ancestors, and this is the role they play in our life. We have Ubuntu, and this is what Ubuntu is, and this is what Ubuntu looks like. But like I said, I'll make this example again, because you find there are nations or other races that do get it right. Another typical or easy example would be the whole Catholic system, where a child will be taught catechesis or taught at school. They'll go to a convent. So while they are there, everything and that they do and everything that they are is already the rules, or the laws, or the belief, everything. You go home, you will pray, you will do this, you will have the books that are talking about this faith. And Sunday, you're going to church, you will have the books so it gets embedded. So if we can then say, what can we take from all these other systems or other ways that other people have gotten it right, and implement? Because for me, we do need schools for our kids that will enable them to be free to express spirituality, to express in their indigenousness in a free way, liberated. And it has to start with them as kids. Isinto sithi gotshwa lisemanzi, because once we reach a certain age, then we have to you know, always be explaining and always be explaining. And with certain things as in our beliefs and with izinto zomoya, you really can't explain. There are those mysteries, and with certain things, making them understand we have sacred things that are sacred, you know, to spirit, that are sacred to us because of 1, 2, 3. It's not about a secret. But if now these kids bakula got this thing and it becomes a way of life, I understand that I'm spiritual, that I'm African, that I am worth, you know, that I am brilliant, that I am beautiful, that I am wise, that I am all these things in my Africa baka. Then, you know, will be halfway to sort of like winning this battle.
Yes, yes. Yeah, sure. I love everything. I love everything that you are sharing. And it's the thing about spirituality, true spirituality, is that it's actually simple and it is as who complicate it, because what you just shared about what is required is us to begin to cultivate this wisdom from a young age, because right now we do get to a point where as adults we are confused and there is a lot of distortions, because one of the things that were done with our indigenous cultures as indigenous people is that our ways were taken, distorted, misinterpreted, resold to us in the misinterpreted way. And so now we have a lot of people who have incredible fear to this indigenous way, which for me, in many times, it always feels like people perceive it as a religion, and it's like it's actually more of a way of being. It's who you are. It's not, it, it's just who you are, you know, and it's the I am. That's the fundamental aspect of who you are. It's not something to, we can talk about rituals and the tools we utilize in connecting to this, but it's already who we are. So I really love the idea of beginning this with our children. And then for those of us who are beginning to relearn, understanding that one of the things you mentioned at the beginning, and this has also been my experience as well, that when you connect with the collective dreamers, Amathonga, yes, hope I say that right, is that even though African spirituality was distorted, misinterpreted, the collective dreamers have that wisdom. It's not corrupt. It's already existing in the higher realm in its purest form. And in understanding that if you build a relationship with them, this means you directly, without the books, without, you know, Coco Joy, Coco Makhosi Ngwane interpretation, you will receive your own deep understanding from your own collective dreamers, from your own Amadlozi, if that's your path, right? This is one of the fundamental important things to share with people, that the most profound power with them is that you can go to them directly and they will teach you this wisdom, because this wisdom are not primitive, they're primordial, they are ancient because they are fundamental. It's just like someone denying the existence of the sun. It's like you can't, you've been there since the beginning of time. So this is one of the things I wanted to share, but I do want you to share, Coco, on from your perspective and understanding and maybe your tradition. And as you mentioned, it will be different per lineages and cultures and school of thought. But what are the different types of ancestral spirits that we can become aware of, just so that we have an understanding, a basis of who we connect with, what is available, possible for different types of people. And yes, not everyone works with all these ancestral spirits, but maybe in understanding, I think you mentioned them earlier, just the different ones that are available so that people can like have a understanding for that. And as Coco is sharing, I'm now opening up for questions. So please feel free to begin to send in your questions as Coco is answering this one. Yes.
You know, Coco, probably high level, you know, I would say I take God as a spirit, and then, you know, moving from there, we would then say there are spirits that reside in the water. There are spirits that reside in the mountains. There are spirits that reside in the forest. There are spirits that reside in caves, emaweni, and you know, and just that's just high level. Just what I'm getting. There are spirits that reside phezulu, you know, and but then from there, especially for those that do go on and get initiated, whether they go through a school or they're initiated by their own people, then you would then get umuntu athi, I have Ndau spirits, which then omunye athi I have abelozi, omunye athi I have amanguni, omunye uzothi I have amandigi, and then omunye uzothi amanono. Amanono, I won't go deep into these because these are, now we're moving more into Amadlozi and more for abantu that are gifted, that would be having, you know, these spirits. But amanono would be spirits that that you see or dream a lot about babies or children. Those are baby spirits. So amanono. Then your ngunis are your warriors, warrior spirits. Then you'll have amandau, very much largely associated with amanzi, water. But whatever that I'm saying is not limited, it's not absolute, it's not, you know, the end and it of it all. And then you'll have abelozi. They'll say kunabelozi baphezulu, and then kunabelozi basemanzini. Those are the ones that whistle, you know, they either chirp like birds or they have that whistling sound. So, you know, and also there are levels, you know, especially you hear with abelozi, it's when you are now have grown so much bungakeng, and those develop, you know, and then you'll have prophecy, spirit sabo mamsebeletsi libo ramsebeletsi, those that pray, and libau, you would have those that were prayer warriors tabeng, or those that were mostly prayer warriors meeting or used water to heal. So there are a lot. And then kukhona, I know there's spirit somdigi, and then kube khona indigi. Hence I said it will depend also geographically where you are, and also you know, understanding of these spirits kuleyo ndawo okuyo. So then there'll be imidliwa. You know, also you'll find that we'll talk about ndawus and say ndawus are water spirits, but we understand umdawu differently from Eastern Cape, and Eastern Cape understands umdawu differently from people from Moss. So, you know, a high level, those are some of the spirits that I can just talk about because they are common, I would say, as well. Those are the words that we hear all the time, even on social media. They say I have umdao, they say I've trusted umguni. You know, what exactly are we talking about? And those are the spirits. And just briefly, that's how you would then define, but it's not limited to what I've just said.
Yes. And these spirits are initiated differently,
yes,
per lineage, per family, per culture,
yes,
as you were just mentioning. So the whole idea is to move away from obsessing about how it's supposed to look, because this is one of the distortions we have as human beings of it has to be this way. Makhosi Ngwane said this is how it's supposed to be, so it has to be this way. And then this limits the collective dream, it limits also the Amadlozi that you work with, because they have a different path, a different way of working that's different from the next person, right?
And they develop, Coco. they develop as well, because, you know, as someone who has initiated, there are certain ways in which I believed was how my people work. But, you know, and once you get home, you find that important a point you touched on, Uti, when you communicate, when you have that communication with your people, then they start revealing things that are now sometimes just unique to you, or just unique to your practice. Because, you know, you get home and then you start they start revealing you something different. So also, you know, nothing is fixated in spirit. I guess it is dynamic, you know, it develops. And so as we go along, I don't think there can be a professor or an expert on spirituality, or on Amadlozi, or on Amathongo, because it's different sometimes from one person to the other, from one tribe to the other, geographically, and also within Tina as healers. And also depending on the level that you are, or where you are now, as someone who's initiated or who has this gift, it will change, or it will develop, or it will grow. So it's also important to not be fixated on semantics, on things, and especially on things we hear and we read about on the net. Always go back. Always, you know, create a very strong connection and communication line with your people, so that you will always come back and say, you are showing me 1, 2, 3, or you are saying this, or this is what I'm hearing. What are you saying? Sometimes they would come with answers and say, I think you answered, but I still don't get it, because sometimes language to Namadlozi, or language to Namathonga, it's different. So it's very important to be strong and to be grounded and to be aligned, so as to not to be wavered left, right, and center, because this was said, therefore I go this way, this was said. But you know, when you go back to your people and you get clarity all the time as to what it is that they're saying and are communicating to you.
Yes, yes. Um, one of the questions that I've received from people is when they hear someone like you saying, "Oh, you go back to them and you ask them." They often ask, "So these ancestors, they came to you, you physically saw them. So just in case this is happening to someone, how do we actually connect with ancestral helping spirits? How do we cultivate a relationship where we will learn to hear them more clearly, understand them, and basically cultivate uh, that it's called the Ascension Path, because every one of us, we are on an ascension path, and the ascension path is to move in your consciousness, and we're moving in consciousness to simply create the good dream that Gogo you were talking about, right? Ultimately, the good dream is the good dream of God. And to do that, we have to move in consciousness, which means in understanding, in awareness of the mysteries of this existence, polarity dual realm that we're part of, right? And that's a process, as we're saying, it's a lifelong journey. Actually, that's what we're all doing, right? When we're healing ourselves and healing our ancestral bloodline, it's essentially to create a collective good dream. And we have to keep going up the layers to essentially create that good dream. But for someone who wants to begin, and they want to begin to connect with the ancestral spirits, what are good practices? It's not the perfect practices, but what are the good practices someone can begin with that can cultivate that clear communication with the ancestral spirits?
I'm tempted, because I'm a Sangoma, to say we are path, you know, and then somebody will say, what is ukupahla? How do I pasha? What do I use? So you know, lately I this is what I say to my to people that I work with, especially those that would be like starting from zero, like, this person is just blank. And I would say, if you resonate more with prayer, or you're more familiar with prayer, start with the one thing that is more familiar to you. If meditation for you is you resonate more or speaks more to you, start with that. Because what I've realized is that it's no point and it's no use me saying to you, go pray, Coco Joy, yet there's an uneasy that comes with that thing to you. Find that one thing that comes, that you are at least comfortable with. Because I say, ebantwini, we have so many things that we are tools. You'll have your snuff, you'll have water, you'll have candles, you'll have so many things that we can use to amplify, our connection with the ancestors or with God. But does then it mean that if I don't have those things, or I don't know how to use those things, I can't do it? So as a starting point, the one thing that you find easy to do and we are most comfortable to do, even if it's just sitting and just speaking and saying, I am Oli, and this is my, and today I call upon everyone in my lineage that is pure, that is cleansed, that want good things for me, that want prosperity for me, that are out for the best, looking out for me, that want protection, the clean, the good ones. I am here and I'm wanting to converse with you, and I'm wanting to connect with you. And the reason why I have gone back to saying that, as opposed to telling people what to say, is because then I say, then ask, how do I talk to you? How do I communicate with you? How do I connect with you? Le phasa ka bupi, le phasa ka mabele. Do you use water? What do you do? What if I'm burning candles? What color candles should I be burning? Should I be burning impepho? Because with certain things, it gets very complicated. You find in certain traditions, bazothi muthu wamsadi, akashisa impepho, or impepho ishiswa ngesikhathi esithize, or impepho ishiswa for a particular reason. So hence I will say, go have this open talk as ngwana wabathuba, and say, I'm wanting to have a connection with you. Come in a dream, come in a vision, come in a sign, send somebody, anyone that can tell me about you or how we do things, so that my connection with you, it'll be something that is solid, it'll be a way that will really bring you forth, because other things are generic. We'll say kuphahlwe, and what do we use to phahla? Candles, impepho, snuff, or water, or bupi, or mabele. But does it apply to all of us? No, it doesn't. Somebody else, prayer comes more. So go pray, sit there and pray. And after praying, talk to your people. I have spoken now to Umveli Ngwane, or as I'm about to speak to Umveli Ngwane, can all my guides be here with me? Can they come and be here with me, so that they hear also what I have? And ask them to come to you and tell you how they want this relationship to be, how they want this communication to unfold. So I try not to apply a one-size-fits-all approach, because I also see how it ends up confusing people more than help.
Yeah, because it creates a distortion, and it creates this, which is the exact opposite of spirituality, this linear process, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is not how spirit works. So I absolutely love everything you just said, and particularly affirming two things that I hope people picked up on, which is that some of these tools, like the candles and the incense and the impepho, we must recognize that these are permission tools. They are not what gives and opens the portals, but they create that space. They give you the permission to enter that state of stillness, that state of openness that will allow you to hear the voices of the collective dreamers, of the ancestral spirits. And when we say communicate with them, they will communicate through thoughts. They will send this through your thoughts, intuition. And when you cultivate this, you will begin to know your voice and the one different from the ancestral spirits. So it's a thing you cultivate, and the 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 point of focus is what you said, Gogo, which is you. You are the shrine. You are the most important tool inside any connection that you are making with the ancestors. So thank you so much. And so now I want to jump to the questions we received. Okay. Okay, so let's start with the one here on Zoom from Umkulu Menzi Tokoza Mkulu. So this was sent actually quite earlier on when you were talking about totems, right? So he's saying, it seems there is very little to no understanding of totems in South Africa in particular. Could you please expand on it? Because it does not seem to be the same as isithakazelo. I hope I'm saying that well and you understand what he means, okay? Oh, good. I only know about it because I now live in Zimbabwe. Yes. Can you expand more on totems and how this becomes part of the connecting and creating a deeper connection with the ancestral spirits?
Totems, spirit totems. We're talking about you will have batho baring kibakwena because their spirit totem kikwena, and you'll have people that their spirit totem is a lion. And I think what I was most talking about here was there were reasons why they would say those people ba ana kwena or ba ana or they are people ba a lion, or I know Totem Ngwane is a monkey. But the importance of totems, I would say, in Nakmina, you look at that animal and you look at the characteristics of those totems or those animals, because most of the time it would be animals, and you then let's go back and try to understand Uguti Bane Baring, what were the elders saying about us as a people, as this clan or as this tribe? When looking at the sticks of a lion, what does it symbolize? What were they saying? Or sometimes it is because an area in Abalimoyona, the river or the place, you know, and they were known as Batuba Bakwena. And they formed bonds, because remember, animals are also, they're living organisms, so we form bonds with also with nature or with animals. So ama-totems asukele lapho, and it's different from isithakazelo. Mkulu is right, because isithakazelo are clan names, and my understanding of ithakazelo, most of the time it's a genealogy. Like I think it's even it's most of the time you would be umtolo, udla ngamandla, ubani, but in those names sesikhuluma ngabomkhulu bakho.
Okay.
Most of the time ithakazelo, it's the people, it's the abomkhulu that have lived through kuleyo lineage, kuleyo surname. Ithakazelo is understand ukuthi ziza kanjalo. Omunye you'll find ukuthi yebo sonke siyabomtolo, but abanye don't call themselves mtolos, but they call themselves langamandlas. Abanye call themselves ospengane, obani. So when we start our ithakazelo zethu, we will have our grandfathers there. ngendlu kabani, ngendlu kabani, ngendlu kabani, ngendlu kabani. And then we will go down now to a description of who we are, of what we were known for, of what we stood for as that particular surname or that particular tribe. That is my understanding. And that is my understanding of the difference between spirit totems, and clan names. But sometimes you would find totems being part of phakathi. For instance, with Batawu, because already that has Dawu in there, which Dawu is that lion that is also a spirit totem for Batubao Baba Dawu. But Babanki Batong Bashalele, Babanki Batong Basbate, Babanki Batong Bamukhele, Babanki Batong Ba. So then that then is thakazelo ke leso, depending on siphuma endlini kabani, then who's are those common things about us, and then sometimes the totem. So things are not different. Also, as Mkula show, because he's in Zim, maybe there it's a bit different. We don't know. But even with us in South Africa, it's not always the same with the North, with KZN, with Eastern Cape, how these things work.
Oh, I love this so much. In Botswana, our understanding of the totems, it's what you shared. Another perspective that I had is it's connected to the biggest tribe in my country, Bangwatu, they're called, and our first president is the Kama family. And the name of the Kama family came because it's connected to the totem. And the story goes that in the early 19th century, I think, yes, 19th century, when the Boers were coming here, they were trying to basically take over the land, and they were hunting for the ancestor of our first president. And he was in a forest and he was almost caught. They were just about to discover him. And the Kama, which is the name of an animal, passed by and it disrupted the Boers, and they then changed direction. And in this story, we believe that that was not just an animal, it was the ancestors embodying the animals and basically redirecting the Boers who were here, who were trying to harm this lineage of our first president. And that's how the name came to be. Or maybe they had the name before, but that's how the totem became that for the Mwato tribe. And it was more of recognizing that sometimes our ancestors animate themselves through animals because they're not living, they do not have the form. They can manipulate some parts of the natural laws. And one of the ways that they're able to do that is the animal kingdom, because the consciousness of animal is easier to manipulate and to basically move and help us essentially. Yeah. So this was another beautiful ways of understanding this.
Yeah, I agree with that one, Coco. Yes. I agree with that one. But I think that highlights the importance of storytelling on its home. You know how Bongkono would sit around the fire and tell grandkids the stories and intomi, because I would imagine that stories like that would come up in a setting like that. You know, why are we called Bomangmang? Why do we say Umajola will not harm a child, which is a snake, would never harm a child? Umajola, that snake must come and see a child in a particular, there's a belief with this particular tribe, Makhosi, that when a child is born, that snake must come and give respect and whatever that must happen. But it will not harm anyone. It will not even harm the baby. So I think it's in this instance, what you've just highlighted at the end, that's when now the Idlozi or Amadlozi, Amathongo take on, a form of an animal to come and do whatever it is that they are needing to do. But quite powerful stories that we have to tell.
Yes, in our last episode, we're talking about storytelling as medicine. and libation. And for those who haven't watched it, I highly recommend it so that we can also see how we've been preserving these natural laws and ancient wisdom through stories, and how these stories can be the medicine that we're seeking. Because there are a lot of people who are very much afraid of encountering animals in the dream state because they perceive that to be something different. And maybe there's a conversation for that, but there's also this part where that is the manifestation, animation of your ancestors coming as the lion, as the elephant. And it's in understanding this that we can receive the message and receive the medicine, because the elements of the dreams as they're sent to us, if we understand them, if we understand what a lion symbolizes, we can receive the message, right? So that's the beauty of seeing how they all connect, right? So another question, this one is on music. Love it. So Coco Noni is asking, what is the significance of music, the drum and ukugida? Would you say it's a form of healing? So there are many layers to this question, right? What is the significance? Is it a form of healing? And do we have Abu Koko and Abu Mkulu that have the gift of healing through music?
Sure. I'll say yes to the second part of the question. That's like a whole stream. That question is like a full stream. Yes, it is a form of healing. And I think I wanted also to touch on the last part. Do other people have the gift of healing through music? Yes. So those two, definitely yes. But what is the significance? It varies. And I think in the context that she is asking is within the context of Ubungoma may be wrong, but that is my assumption. Because if we're not taking it in that context, we would then say to us as Batu, what does music do? You know, let's just be as that basic, you know, what does music do? Music is a soother. Music can be prayer. Music is a communicator. Music is an art form. You know, there's so many things that music can do to us as a band. Music is an awakener, and music is medicine. Music is healing. But within ubungoma, sivuswa umculo, ingoma, we get awakened. These people that we are initiating, we will guitar or we'll do whatever, and there will be drumming that's calling out to these spirits to awaken. And the one significant part that music plays within ubungoma is that it awakens. Loya mngoma lesasa ngoma ekufanele siyovuka. And ukita, stamping on the ground, you know, that connection, that calling of angithi abaphansi, that's that charging of those that we are saying are beneath, but they're really not beneath, they're with us. But as you ugita, besides it healing or being a form of release, also it's a call. It's a call to awaken the many that we are saying need to come out and tell us what it is that they are wanting. Remember, as umngoma, you'd be in disease, you'd be sick, and you're wanting to know who is this that's making me ill? Who is this that's causing all this in my life? You know, as you did that, you evoke those people. And also it's that connection with the ground. And it's very important. Connection to the ground is very important. Besides grounding us, it's a release also energy, like we're always talking about energy, also release energies. So yeah, but that's a whole stream on its own that I think especially gifted people with music can really tap into, that are also izangoma, but it's a very, very, very important part of spirituality.
And when we think of it from the mechanics, all scientific, is the mechanics of how universes are created by the prime creator. There's a reason why we say our universe happened through the process of the Big Bang. The Big Bang is the primordial sound, that universes are created through sound, through vibration. So when we're doing Ukigida, we are actually opening portals. We're opening stargates in the earth through the sound. That's like, it's literally like a knock to open the door. Right, so that's another way to understand that. Also, the drums has this ability to tap into the primordial frequency vibration of the original sound that created our world. That's why it's a huge aspect of our spirituality. It's because God created our world, which is, our world is called the primordial sacred water. And if you have ever seen what happens to the water when you hit and create sound, it ripples out and creates an entire pattern. And that's how creation is also made.
Beautiful, Coco. Thank you for that.
Okay, so we're getting one last question, Coco, and we're wrapping. This conversation is so wonderful, but we have to wrap up. So we have one last question from our sister Ruthie she's coming all the way from Texas. Thank you for joining us. So she is asking from the perspective of those who are in the diaspora, those who are in the US. So she wanted to understand. She has two questions. So the first one is, when we're speaking of tribes and connection, does this also apply to them, especially those who don't know that tribes, I think? So like, how to navigate that if you don't have a clear understanding of the tribal names and tribal totems and so on, right? So that's the first question, if you have thoughts on that. And then the second one, she wants to understand, a shrine can be an altar, but an altar is not a shrine. Can you explain this part, if you understand what she said? One is, yes, okay, so yeah, I think that's what she wants to understand, those two things. Thank you,
Okay,
for asking. Yeah.
Towards, I would say, yes, that they do belong to tribes. And why I would say that, because I'm more thinking of where they originally come from. So they come from Africa. They were part of tribes in Africa. Yes, it might be a bit tedious for somebody who really has no clue as to where to start, to actually start identifying which tribe and where they belong to and whatever. But they, we know that they were moved, in those days of slavery, but their roots are here. So they were part of us, they were part of tribes. So, but I think with lately, with how things with the bars of awakening and all of that, even in the diaspora, you find a lot of people that have a deep understanding of Africa, of Africans, of spirituality, of tribes that are doing this research actively, that are studying this actively, and are finding exactly how and when and why, and they are able to place themselves, even though they are that side, and we can count centuries since they left this side. So I would encourage Ugogo to look for people like that, to look for books like that, those people that have already, tapped into this whole Africanism thing, this whole spiritual thing, that have done extensive research and start from there. And I would say start from there, but not be narrow into exactly wanting to know which tribe, even if she just finds who she is, even in the scheme of collective, and that would be, enough, because it might be long to actually pinpoint, but we never understand the workings of the spirit. Also talking to them, asking them, they might reveal certain things to her in dreams or via messages or via people, or she might just bump into information that will open up so many things for her. So it's also about going back to just connecting with your people and asking them for the things that you wanting to be revealed to you. And with shrine and altar, I wouldn't say that they are different. I don't like saying that they are different. I believe that some things are just fancier ways of describing things, because for me, a shrine or an altar is where you go and talk to God, or you go and talk to your people. I pray in Samo, but I also pasha in Samo. But then Masiti altar, to me, as somebody who comes from a Christian background, I almost like saw the altar of the church. I just had that picture, and I'm imagining maybe that's what she is saying, but I wouldn't say differentiate, separate these things. I wouldn't say separate these things. We spoke about a way of life, and we said that akukho more important to phahla than it is to pray. Akukho more important to pray than it is to phahla. So for me, if you have that altar and you're saying, this is where I come to connect with spirit, God, my ancestors, spirit, angels, spirit, however I go to source, or however I go to spirit, then let us not get stuck in the language, in the words, because sometimes they just I don't know. Coco Joy, maybe you can.
No, there is definitely limitation with words, with language, and we must notice that and go beyond having the exact words for something, because that means we're working with the mind, and the world of spirit is beyond the mind, right? So it's what you just described and what you shared. I also understand it as that. And maybe I guess she also probably wanted to understand what you meant when you said we are the shrine. Remember when you said that? Perhaps it's coming from that. And I also wanted to share with you, Ruthie, that if you don't have the tribe yet, then the names of your ancestors are what you will use to call on them and to commune with them, right? So spirit is not like you have to call us with the exact tribal name. It doesn't work like that. First of all, they already know that you are that child. So even if you don't know the exact names of your ancestors, but having the names of the grandparents and great grandparents, usually just it's enough to start there, the family names, and just bringing and inviting those spirits that are of the light, that are in working with God, the true God, and so forth, ensuring that you mention that those are the ancestral spirits that you are calling. And I've actually had an experience myself where I discovered that there is part of my ancestry that I didn't know that is from Lesotho, that no one ever mentioned, which I learned through my ancestors. And then when I went to confirm, it was confirmed that yes, there is that. So that's another thing. Even if you don't have the exact, communicating, connecting with the ancestors, they will reveal to you, and it can even be exact place where your bloodline actually comes from. So keep communing with them and keep, asking. This is the most important thing you've mentioned, Gogo, the importance of asking. Like, no book, no healer can give you better answers than your own direct connection with your guides, with your team of spirits. Yes. Whew. Okay. Coco, one last question and then we are wrapping up, I promise. So, Coco, one, I know that a lot of people would want to know a little bit, and it's also not an exact answer because it's so broad, but just maybe you could touch on, for those people who are called to Amadlozi, those who have the gift, how can they know essentially that they are also being called to work with Amadlozi? If they're at the beginning, what can they look out for, if there is anything to look out for? And of course, we are not generalizing, but just an idea. Yeah.
Yeah, generally, dreams, but also what are those dreams? You dream of water bodies, mountains, the ocean, the rivers, amawa, and the lions. We come back to these animals, snakes. Those are the common things that we talk about. But then over and above dreams, I think the important dreams also, you would dream of healers. Izangoma, you dream of, you'll hear the drum. Some people will say, I kept hearing the drum, or I saw people drumming, or I saw people in my dream make guitar. And so those are some of them, at least almost light-giving signs, beats, that you will see. And then also you will be very intuitive and sometimes prophetic. You will see things before they happen. You will have just that sixth sense that is just on steroids. You will have things in your life that are not going right, for some reason, because kuba na this shake up in your life when you need to go and your twasa. I know it is not necessarily with everybody that you will also be physically ill, but for other people you will be physically ill, and some of the areas that will affect you are your feet. Yes, others will tell you they get blocked. Others, it will be your eyes, but there will be physical illness, there will be emotional illness, there'll be a mental illness, but we're not saying all mental illness is people that need to go in twasa. So people must also be careful there. So others will have depression all the time, constant. So your umzimba wakho, your body will be in turmoil. So your emotions will be in turmoil. Sometimes empilweni, life in general, things will just, for some people you lose everything. Some people you can't work anymore, but you don't understand why. So you need to look at things. Okay, this is happening. This is sort of like tick the box. So we can't say now because this is happening, it means meling your twasa. And there is a problem that you needing to fix. But in addition to this is also happening. In addition to this is also happening. And when I look, these are symptoms that abantu abanobizo would have, or these are experiences abantu abanobizo would go through. And for some people, lucky because already kaya kuyaziwa ukuthi yeah, le gift ikhona, le nto ikhona. So the minute you start not being well, or you start seeing things, there's somebody that can say, I ngathi unobizo. Remember what I said as well with how Gogo would know. Sometimes others, your granny already knew that one day you are going to be inyanga, noma one day you are going to be a healer because of how you were born or what you had when you were born. So, but those are the general stuff. Pay attention mostly to dreams. Pay attention to events around your life. Pay attention to illnesses, either mental, psychological, physical, or emotional, what is going on now, and are you having deja vus, or are you able to just tell people? And sometimes healers, they everybody wants to tell you their problems for some weird reason. You just a heal, and everybody thinks you can solve things. So there are also characteristics that go with abantu who are one day called to heal.
Yes, yes. And Coco, this is just for me. So for everyone who wants to begin building a relationship with ancestral spirits, not necessarily the Amadlozi spirits, can they create altars for themselves? Or is there particular time and reason why? Because I know this is a question that people might have, right? Yeah.
Okay. Maybe you don't even want to say I'm creating a formal altar or anything, but I would say yes, find that corner. And for you, it's your altar. For you, indawo yakho. For you, it's your shrine. That space, that corner where you will put either your candle stand, where you'll put either your water, where you will put either your stones or whatever that resonates with you, where you will put either your church things, where you will burn impepho if you have somebody who wants to burn impepho. And because it is your thing, I would say there is no right or wrong. But remember also what I said when sikhuluma ngamathonga nomsamo wasekhaya. When you unekhaya, umuntu, and you are still living at home, kunomsamo already angithi wasekhaya. So I won't necessarily create my own somewhere in my bedroom, but I will have my little corner where I pray. You understand, or where I connect, or where I meditate, whether outside or inside. But we already know, or I will go outside ngasemanzini or entabeni or ehlane to go and pray. But umsamo wasekhaya ukhona, where in some cultures or traditions, then if there's something that I'm needing to communicate with abantu abadala, depending on what it is, there will be somebody assigned. But there's somebody that is assigned who is an elder who has permission to speak kulo msamo lo. So also understand how ifamily yakho does things. But to having a space and a place where you just communicate and connect, I would say, of course, why not?
Yes, there are no rules when it comes to connecting with the higher realms because we are all spirits, right? Okay. Just a follow up on, you mentioned on how people can identify Idozi in them. What about those who have Isithunya? How can they identify that?
Isithunya also a lot of dreams, and Abesithunya, they would see mostly church garments, for a lack of a better word, we'll say church garments. Bayibona ipiga, capes. They will see amathusi lirika Setswana, I think, or they will see bonkgono ba rapelang, ntatemoholo o rapelang haholo o metsi. And Isithunya also, some people will dream a lot about snakes. And then also there are physical things that you will feel in your body. Uma unomoya wesithunya, they'll suffer mostly from ditlhabi, ibobo. So I'm not sure what it is referred to in English, but ibobo, like ditlhabi, you feel like something is piercing you. So abantu bomoya wesithunya would suffer a lot from that, and a lot of yawning. Where else with people with idlozi, most of the time they will burp. But abahamba ngesimo sesithunya kakhulu, they will yawn, they will do that yawning. And also abantu abanomoya wesithunya tend to have those times where they are so sensitive and they just cry for no reason. And also pay attention to what happens to you when you hear these spiritual songs or gospel songs, because most of the time you go into a mini heaven, or you have tears, and then most of the time and you'll see candles, and you'll see that, because also they also show you how you're going to work, or you'll see water, So yeah, abesithunywa kuhamba kanjalo, but the common one will waterfalls as well. Abantu besithunywa kakhulu baphupha impophoma, waterfall, because kula isithunywa sibhobozwa khona, because that spirit does not necessarily get initiated njengedlozi, but there comes a time where siyobhoboka, and most of the time it is emanzini phansi kwaleyo mpophoma, wearing that white whatever, or that blue thing that we're shown, or that yellow thing that you're seeing, or bonkhono, or the cheso, fires. Bless you, Coco. So yeah, umoya wakhona uyazibhobokela owesithunywa. So yes.
You have activated my everything. The moment you start to talk about it, I start to yawn. I'm like, I was just fine. Thank you so much, Coco, for this transmission. It was so profound. There's so much love and appreciation coming from everyone who joined us. Thank you for joining us. Sandy says she loves and appreciates us both. Ruthie is saying thank you so much, Makhosi. And so, yeah, thank you so much, Coco. For those people who want to continue to learn from you, to possibly work with you, can you share with us how you work and how people can connect with you?
Facebook, it's Makhosi Ngwane or Gogo Xoli. Instagram is Fagutse Ngwane Fagutse. And yeah, and I think you can inbox or just send a text in one of those, and then I can give further details to anyone that wishes to speak to me about anything. Thokoza Koko.
Thokoza. And for those who are following our masterclass series, if you go under our speakers in the website, there's a link. When you click it, it will redirect you to Makhosi's Instagram. We have your Instagram link, so it will lead you to the Instagram link. So Warriors of Light Show, which we are doing, is a masterclass series that we've been doing since October, and we're ending in November. Every Tuesdays and Fridays at 5 p.m. we're bringing in different African spirituality experts, wellness healers, medicine men and women, and so far the amazing transmissions that have been coming here. My mind is blown. So much great teachings, powerful transmissions, and I am so activated. I've learned so much. Like Sipo here, she or he is excited. They've learned so much from you today. So thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us and sharing your thoughts and questions with us. This has been a beautiful experience, and continue to cultivate your relationship with the ancestral spirits. Yes, learn from these kind of spaces, but remember the shrine is with you. The connection is done through you, and that's where the power is. So thank you everyone, and have a good evening.
Thokoza Koko, thank you so much.
Thokoza.